amplifies what you've done. When you
Right,
broke, when you broke, you are who you are. But if you got a lot of money, if you was an idiot when you was broke, you're gonna be more of an idiot. If you was a kind
right.
of and that so I definitely understand that I definitely understand what you were saying. I was saying you should have been there last week. It was a good show.
Because they were saying that even when Diddy was in New York and he was a promoter, promoting parties, there was a situation in I think Brooklyn or the Bronx where there was this party he was promoting, and it was like too many people in the building, and there was this situation that happened. I don't know if it was a fire or what, but there was a situation where people got killed due to some type of hazardous situation, and he basically, I think he threatened people, swept it on the rug. And this kid, I think he was in college at the time, so he was, already starting the pattern of behaviors that he has now, and he was in his 20s. So, you are who you are. Like I tell my kids, I have students who, they mad because I discipline them, and so they want to go and move schools. And I tell them, you know what, you take you wherever you go, honey. And so I'm fine with that. So Diddy is who he is, and he's gonna be who he is with whomever. He was who he was with Kim. That's why she was desperate to get away from him, and that's why allegedly she fell down the steps. You know,
She had a medical condition.
she had a cold, and
She got rid of.
then she fell down the steps because she had too much cold medicine or something. I don't know,
Yeah,
allegedly. So
yeah.
so so there's a pattern of behavior, and it's not just with Cassie. It's just that Cassie, she was able to eventually be strong enough to speak about it, but there are people who are afraid to still speak about it.
Oh,
um
I agree. I definitely agree with that. And that's but that most of those power dynamics are different. We talking about relationship wise.
no, I'm
Uh,
talking about relationship wise as well, because think about it. When was he with Cassie?
oh, I thought she was a side chick, but that's just me.
Okay, I know, but what year was that?
I don't
What
even know.
what were those years? Early 2000s?
I think so.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay,
say about
so early
6.
2000s, he was with Cassie, but he was what? How old was he then? 40,
Yeah, he was like
He was
39 when
he
he
was
39,
good.
late 30s, 40s. He had already been established. He was already who he was. They were already having freak offs. So if that's the case, then there was someone before Cassie. There were
Oh
people
yeah.
before him. He had already established a behavior, a pattern of behaviors. By the time he got to her, he'd already perfected who he was in that manner. So there are people before her who he practiced on.
And he probably got it with NDAs and
So that
everything.
right, they are either too afraid or dead.
Yeah, and sometimes that's with people that deal with him. That seems to be both. Hey,
Right.
Apple, what's going on, Apple?
Hey, I was just here listening, and everybody makes a valid point. But I said this before when we brought up this subject. I want to say like a month ago. He's been doing this. It's not anything new. It's just coming to the forefront now. But he's done it with every person that he's been involved with, whether romantically, publicly, or just a side chick. And Cassie was a side chick to him, but he was her whole world. Like he isolated her from everybody, and the alleged abuse, been going on for years. You hear, me being from New York, you hear things,
Oh
when you go to
yeah.
the clubs and things like that. So this is not anything new. It's just coming out now, but it's always been the case. Everybody always said if you party with him, expect some freaky things to go on. I'm glad that she finally decided to, to speak up about it. And I think what put her over the edge is when Kim Porter died. I'm not going to say she got killed because, we don't know, but
You don't know.
when that happened, I think that really scared her. And then, all these other things was going on you know, and he was in the middle of all of this. And I
Yep.
think that's what finally made her speak up. And I don't know who leaked that video of her in the hotel, but like I believe it was Summer. That couldn't have been the first time. I
No,
know for a
no,
fact.
just that, it's never when it's that blatant, that's never the first time. That's
Right.
just the
And
first time
this is
somebody
just the
outside
first time
their circle
somebody
saw that.
actually, right. Someone
Yeah.
that wasn't inside of his inner circle saw it and, decided to post it. And it probably took them years to do that. They probably had it for a while, and they finally decided to post it because maybe they were like blackmailing him or whatever. But it's crazy. And I think she stuck around because he probably isolated her and she probably felt like she didn't have anywhere else to go. And he got her by promising her fame and fortune and she's going to be the next Beyonce or what have you. And he slowly isolated her and she felt like she had no choice but to stay with him out of fear, out of loyalty, out of whatever, you know? And he is a monster.
Yeah, no, nobody. I don't think anybody in Blackville will disagree with you unless they was on his payroll, because
Right,
he keeps goons on speed dial allegedly.
right. Yeah, allegedly.
What's
And
going on, Matt?
it's
Hey, just enjoy in the summer.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy out this piece. Um, like Apple saying, her living in New York, she's privy to a lot more. I'm not gonna say gossip, but a lot more street intelligence than we are the farther away from New York. What do you feel? Have you ever known anybody that was in a difficult relationship?
So when I was with my son's dad, that was a difficult relationship because I think I can see how people can stay because for myself, it was a lot of infidelity and growing up a Christian woman, it was like I forgive you, but they continue to do the same thing. And when they're first dating you, they shower you with stuff and and treat you right because they're trying to get you. And once they get you, they feel like they don't have to do anything. And it was a lot of verbal abuse and once had a physical incident. Um, but I hit him back. But I just didn't like I felt like if I would have married him, that it would have heightened the physical violence because he would have felt like he had me then and I was just stuck. And then I stayed with him because I was in college when we were together and I got pregnant and I didn't have insurance. And so I said, oh God, now I got to stay with him. And so I stayed with him, but I learned that, sometimes when you think that you don't have any alternatives, that having no alternatives is better than staying with somebody that's abusive.
That I mean, I understand that, and so what made you actually decide it was time to extricate yourself from the situation?
Um, Arguing all the time, and my son was small because when I left him, he was like 2. And I remember growing up babysitting for my aunt, and they would go out, and every Sunday morning, they would be into a big argument, and then they would go to church. And I said, that's not the life that I want, is to be arguing all the time. I just felt like it should be better. So my mom came over and she said, you don't look right. And you can always come home. And that was my moment like, okay, time to go, you know. And he
You missed your
tried
show
to,
last week too. We talked about that too. Go
Yeah.
on.